All the engineers are checking all the roads, trying to get the roads back open. That is changing hourly.
This is the carrot. Of course, you need a carrot for the nose. A real quick look at one of the notes. He was also loved by his faculty.
If you think of all of the ways that we use water and then multiply that by a hospital.
But I want to step to the side and show you some of the intensity of this fire this morning. Take a look at that tanker truck. That's what's on the back of that flatbed truck.
Here's what we've been able to find out. A teen who was in DSS custody was placed in a hotel with a DSS worker. Now, the teen's father tells us on April 4th, he walked away.
There is no denying that this is a historical day here in South Carolina. I do want to have a note of interest here, though. I shot this entire story on my iPhone like many people did today, so I joined in the crowd to record and document history in that way.
I want to say something about my traverse across the county.
Okay.
One thing I did that if you're out you need to do, every time I saw a barricade, I turned around even though the road did not look like it was flooded. The grand jury statute did not specify human trafficking as something that they could investigate. Lawmakers worked this session to make sure that that language is in both laws. The words trafficking in persons or human trafficking now appear in both laws. Slager shot and killed 50-year-old Walter Scott after they say he tried to run away from the officer.
There were about 200 people at the rally this morning that started about 10 o'clock, lasted more than an hour.
SCE&G's website up, so just in their coverage area in the Midlands, 11,000 people.
Makeshift memorial for Officer Greg Aaliyah is growing today as mourners come to pay their respects. I'm here with his wife, Cassie Aaliyah. And Cassie, first of all, we're so sorry for your loss. But you're wanting to get a message out there to people. Tell us about your husband and what kind of police officer he was. So what if someone calls with an emergency here at the Casey Riverwalk? Technology may or may not be able to pinpoint where they are.
But we found something that may be going on with your Wi-Fi. Ah, there it is. Don't you hate that thing?
Some of the outbursts seem to be over the fact that the chief couldn't give very much about the investigation because SLED has taken over that investigation.
Under the weight of all that water, we're so lucky we didn't have more rescues down there. Savannah, even yesterday morning, had to go tell first responders there were people in those cars.
My children saying, what do we do? What do we do? And all I could tell them was pray.
In the early morning hours of October 5th, Rob Eccles woke up to the sound of rushing water. His wife, Lisa, describes the scary moments her family endured.
You got to get up. We've got water in the house, coming in the house, and it was coming under the doors. A lot of scary noises, alarms going off. You could hear the water going down the air vents, and the kids were getting nervous.
They decided it was time to get their 5 children and 2 dogs out of the house.
It's too deep. It's too rough. We can't do it.
But they did. And now, a month later, they are still trying to rebuild their lives. So far, they've only been able to do demolition and decontamination of their home. They are part of a lawsuit against Fort Jackson because of the Sims Lake dam failure. As you can see, Sims Lake is now drained and has been since the days of the flood. When that dam gave way, all the water in the lake rushed downstream to the houses below. And as you can see behind me, the force of that water took out everything in its path.
Have 6x6 posts with, half a yard of concrete on each one.
It took them 30 days to say that anything wrong happened in the fort.
Attorney Pete Strom represents 25 clients who filed claim for the damages over a month ago, and so far have heard nothing from the fort on the claim.
We're hopeful that they're going to come talk to us. We hadn't heard a word.
The Eccles, like many people affected by the flood, did not have flood insurance because they were not in a flood zone.
It wouldn't have flooded but for the breach of the dams. This is not the 1,000-year flood issue. This is a failed dam issue that we're dealing with there.
The dead fish everywhere, the lake water in the pool.
By law, the fort, or federal government, has 6 months to respond to the claim.
The way it should work is they get in touch with us and say, show us your estimates, your repairs, just like an insurance adjuster does.
Fort Jackson has 7 dams listed in the National Inventory of Dams. And according to this report, all the storm water from around the fort drains into Sims Lake as well. Also, this technical report from 2010 analyzed problem areas, including undersized pipes, deficient stormwater structures, lack of basic maintenance, sinkholes, and poor grading for drainage. These issues create ponding, erosion, and safety concerns and prevent a fully functioning system. We have no word if those issues were ever fixed. That's the system failure that Strom contends caused his clients to lose their home and almost their lives.
It's when they failed, that's what bam, 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 devastation.
And it's more than that community.
So when you get over by Midlands Tech and out that way, then all of that's going to be a combination of the Gills Creek water, the Lake Catherine, Forest Lake, that chain of water, as well as the Fort Jackson water.
We reached out to Fort Jackson and they sent us this comment. We understand and empathize with those adversely affected by the catastrophic flooding, which included Fort Jackson soldiers, civilian employees, and families. We are proud our close relationship with both the City of Columbia and Richland County allowed for Fort Jackson to provide an immediate emergency response during and in the immediate aftermath of this tragic event.
Not one person from the fort has reached out to come into Kings Grant to say, we're sorry, here's a bottle of water, can we help carry all this stuff out of your house that's ruined?
Meanwhile, the Eccles and the other families affected by the dam failure are left in limbo with the piled up, damaged remnants of their lives.
My girls have none of their collections or clothes or shoes or security blankets or anything left. I just want to get some normalcy back for my family.
Mary Sturgill, News 19 WLTX.
Why are children in DSS custody sleeping in offices here in Richland County? Last year, the Legislative Audit Council released an in-depth report showing the shortcomings of the state's DSS system. After we broke the story of Richland County DSS housing kids in hotels, they changed their policy. Now Mary Sturgill has learned that children are sleeping in the Richland County DSS office.
So I have a question. If we couldn't find placement, we'd have to sleep in here?
Yeah.
Like, where are we going to sleep at?
A DSS worker shows a former foster child who's in the independent living program, Angelica Eastman, where children sleep when they sleep in the office. She says caseworkers have told her numerous times if they cannot find a placement for her, she will sleep in the office, but she has refused.
For real? We make a pallet tonight?
You make a pallet, sleep up like this? Get away.
The now 20-year-old was in foster care for 16 and a half years. She is now in the aftercare, or the independent living program, that is supposed to help foster children transition to independence. She says she lost her on-campus housing at Allen University after she says DSS did not pay a portion of her tuition. And with no home, she says DSS caseworkers told her she would have to sleep in the Richland County DSS office with the other children they did not have placements for.
We don't know if we're going to find you any placement. We've been short on homes for 2.5 weeks now. We have no placements for anyone. I told them, well, I'm not going to sleep in the DSS office. I will have to find myself somewhere to go because I need to wash, I need to be clean and capable to go to school the next morning.
On 4 different occasions over the past month, we requested an interview with DSS to ask them about the sleeping situation. Finally meeting with regional team leader Dawn Barton.
I know that there's been reports on the hotels, and we've gotten a lot of scrutiny over that. But that's not the best case scenario either. But I think you do have to weigh. I mean, is that better than the county office? Is the county office better than that? We are no longer using hotels as an option for our children.
So we just wanted to know if what you see in the video is common practice. So we showed it to her.
Spend the night, that's where you stay. That's the room. Anybody.
So that answer kind of makes me think that it's more common than not. Or more common than it should be, let's put it that way.
I think any time is more common than it should be. Again, I think one time is more common than it should be. Yeah. But I also think that this is not something that has been an ongoing historical problem for the agency. And so I think there most definitely has to be protocols put into place. We do need to have, if we do have to have the situation occur, we do need to have, even if it is an air mattress, we need to have those kinds of access to those kinds of things to make the child as comfortable as possible.
Barton tells us she, along with the directors in her region, are working on creating those protocols.
And included in would be just an area specialized if we are in that situation. I'll tell you, some of the county officers are just not equipped, frankly, to handle children sleeping there overnight. Now we have purchased air mattresses and things that can be utilized in those type situations to make it a little bit more comfortable for the children.
Senator Katrina Shealy is on the DSS Oversight Committee, and she finds the scenario troubling, saying it raises questions that need to be addressed.
That's not a good situation. First of all, I don't think boys and girls should be sleeping in the same room. Where is somebody else, is an adult supervisor sleeping or not sleeping, staying awake all night watching these children in this room with these kids?
Meanwhile, Eastman says the reason she came forward is to show how the system is broken so it can be fixed.
I just want, by someone hearing my story, that they can help these other children, these babies that are sleeping in the office, get them somewhere that they can be safe at instead of being held by DSS.
Again, that was Mary Sturgill reporting. DSS says they're working on protocol to make sure that all children and staff are safe if the need arises for them to sleep in an office.
Sandy Batten and her husband have been blessed with 2 wonderful boys who happen to have autism.
Some children with autism are brilliant, and some children like mine are learning disabled.
Those with autism can have varying degrees of difficulty in a multitude of areas, like speech, learning, sensory, and social skills.
Some children have splinter skills. Chase is an amazing musician. My son Julian was reading at a 3rd grade level when he was 3 years old, but can barely string 3 or 4 words together in a sentence. Can you write the word black? That's fantastic.
They may only have difficulty in 1 or 2 areas, or they could have difficulty in all areas. And no 2 are alike.
If you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism.
But one problem a 2012 study confirmed, and that many parents already knew, wandering by children with autism is common. It's dangerous and often ends in tragedy.
I think probably you just have children with autism that don't just don't know I'm supposed to go tell mom if I want to leave the home. I mean, it could be anything. It could be, your child just decides that they want to go to the pool at that moment and walk out of your door.
One example, 4-year-old Jaden Morrison, who died in December. He left his grandmother's Myrtle Beach home and was later found drowned.
With all the child safety locks, with deadbolts on your door, you just absolutely positively never know. I now have a 14-year-old that child locks are meaningless, and he's who knows how to open the door and would open the door for anyone.
And he did for me when I came to his house for this story. But there is a way that tragedies like that of little Jaden Morrison could be prevented. It's through 2 types of waivers that are available to those with autism. The IDRD, or Intellectual Disability Related Disabilities Waiver, or CSW, or Community Supports Waiver.
This one gives you a capped amount of money that you use per fiscal year. I believe the numbers is in the range of about $11,000, and there's a variety of different services that parents can utilize.
So in addition to getting different types of therapies for your child, you could use some of the money for environmental accommodations that could keep your child more safe.
I'm going to utilize this service to get an alarm system put in our house. They won't pay for the monthly monitoring, but they'll pay to put a chime on my door so I can hear if my child walks out.
And that could possibly prevent a tragedy.